Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to crumble!
I'm Joshua Kemble, and welcome to Joshua Kemble's Livestream. I've been a freelance illustrator and graphic designer for over 20 years. I was an art director for 9 years. And when I'm not art directing and working on illustrations and graphic designs, I'm working on comic books and graphic novels, and that's usually what I do during my streams. And while conversations can go all over the place on this stream, from spicy and entertaining to goofy and silly, one thing stays consistent throughout every stream. I'll always be working on art. So pull up a chair, get your art supplies out, and get ready for an entertaining show that'll keep you company while you work on your own personal art projects. This is Joshua Kemble's Art Stream. All right, welcome to my live stream. I am Joshua Kemble. I'm going to move the mic away a little bit so I'm not like blowing out the volume here. Let's see. I think that'll work. Okay, so basically, I went to Universal Studios yesterday with the family. It was really fun. But today I woke up just exhausted. It's like that after a family trip to a theme park, kind of just overload. Like it's almost like a hangover is the best way to explain it. So I'm finally ready to work. I'm excited. It'll be really fun to kind of get this going. That was a fun day yesterday too. I got to take my son and family around and kind of look at stuff and eat too much bad food. and now we're going to get into coloring page 122 of Not Death But Love, the Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. And I'll probably just talk and kind of chill and hang out with you guys. So if you're watching right now, the best thing you can do is hit that like button, and then we'll get into it. Hopefully you guys are doing okay. All right, let's go to my daily stream. There's one thing I do have to tell you. I have two webcams that I generally use for this stream. One of them just stopped working today. So that's my, usually I have a webcam kind of showing my Wacom tablet in action. And that just decided to not compute with OBS. And I tried like 5 different, fixes that were recommended online and they didn't seem to be working. So I'm guessing maybe that webcam's dead. I don't know. So we're going to be a one camera show today. So let's get into it. Boom. So I kind of adjusted so that hopefully it's a little more interesting to kind of see what's going on. And then here is the finished page that I've been working on. I'll show it without without color so that you guys can kind of see. There's panel 1. We're at Via Boca de Leon. And then we're overhearing a conversation that's clearly happening kind of towards the rooftop. And now we're honing in on this rooftop conversation between Sophie and Elizabeth Barrett Browning. And then I am in the process of coloring this wild page as well. So that's what we're going to be working on today. I might mess around with where my face is located just because I don't want to cover a lot of the art. So maybe I'll just locate myself right down here and shrink it down just a tiny bit. And then we'll be able to get into it. So what else has happened recently? There's some interesting things happening if you don't live in the U.S. We had an election recently. Obviously, I'm pretty open about my beliefs on those kind of things. And I won't be pretending that I'm like super happy with the results of the election because it's a little disheartening to know that like a good chunk a good chunk of the US are in my mind kind of in a cult, which is kind of a disturbing thing. So, but I was trying to think about it, and maybe we can talk about this in the chats or something like that, but it's I'm not sure um when truth erodes like entirely, where you can just kind of invent your own system or reality, like um at what point can you actually debate or win that kind of mindset over? I don't know if that makes sense as a question, but that's something I've been wondering. Let me see. I have references here that I'm going to pull over because I have two dresses that I wanted them to be wearing, that are kind of Victorian era dresses. So that I don't know. That's a tough one for me to figure out how to navigate myself. Like imagine, um, you're in a scenario where someone is just convinced that we live in a shoebox. Like, you know what it is? It's the old man, the old woman in the shoe. Uh, Fairy tale becomes some kind of weird cult where everyone starts believing that we're all actually living in an old shoe. How about that? And discuss this with them and kind of point out facts or recordings of scientists talking about, the earth that we live on. And you can kind of give them all the information in the world and they'll be like, yeah, but that's just what um, big earth wants you to think. They don't want you to really realize that you're just living in an old shoe. And you're like, this is like clearly nonsense. Like everything you're saying is clearly nonsense. And they'll be like, well, you just think it's nonsense because of the fake news media. it's I guess I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I have no idea how you traverse the terrain of just total absurdism. And I'm kind of curious what you guys would think of that. But anyhow, so what I'm working on right now is just kind of coloring these pages, trying to kind of stay focused on work and getting stuff done. And also just, trying to retain a slight bit of faith in humanity. But it's just it's a weird thing where I think there's a lot of people who, no matter what evidence they're presented with, will just kind of think one thing, and there's really no changing that. And in fact, it just kind of spreads, which is equally concerning. But I don't know. So anyhow, using that shoe analogy, I feel like if that were the cult that I was concerned about, it's kind of like the best way I can explain it is like it's like I know a lot of people who think we live in an old shoe, and there and no amount of evidence will ever suffice because it's just they're convinced. It's an interesting place to be, but this is the state of where things are. I'm excited though today. I have a bunch of fun stuff on the dock. I have um, some freelance that I have to do. There's some roughs I did a while ago for a client that I really like that does a lot of tech manuals for aspiring white hat and black hat hackers. And they have me do a lot of cover art for them. I've been doing quite a bit of freelance for them this year, actually. Anyhow, there's some roughs I did about earlier this month, and they finally had time to talk to the author and get some feedback. So very easy revisions. I might do those on stream. I don't know. And then aside from that, like the goal is to kind of color these pages And I did have a really beautiful experience the other day. I don't know if you guys have had this, because I don't know, again, like who's tuning in at this point. And if you are tuning in, whether you're, US bound or, from a different area, but like we're in a 3-day weekend over here. And I had one of those beautiful moments of finding out, like, midway through my workday, where somebody was like, "Oh, we have a 3-day weekend, and 3-day weekday, a 3-day weekend," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing!" So, I ended up finding out the best way you can that you're gonna have extra time off. Um, I feel like the worst way that goes is usually like it'll be like Thursday and you think it's Friday, you know. And you're like, "Oh man, I'm so excited it's Friday," and then people are like, "Actually, dude, it's Thursday." That's the worst feeling in the world. I think the best is when you forget it's Friday, and then somebody kind of comes along and reminds you, "Actually, it's Friday." It was kind of one of those, except that it was a reminder of the beautiful 3-day weekend that we have. So that for me is really valuable right now, because that's some catch up time to like get a little bit ahead on this comic, to kind of catch up on the freelance that I was mentioning earlier, and just in general, kind of get some house stuff in order. So I'm excited about that. I also took I think I mentioned this on the last stream, but I took a good look at this graphic novel that I'm doing for Turner Publishing. And it's been taking a long time. Like this has been a very time consuming endeavor doing this book. But the cool part about it was it's looking really cool, and I'm really happy with the results. So that's pretty nice. Let's see here. So I'm pulling colors from previous pages so that the colors are slightly, consistent. We're coloring Elizabeth right now. And then there has been like a pretty big costume change, so we'll kind of see how that goes. But yeah, there was some really interesting stuff like that I saw today that made me a little concerned. Man, I hadn't seen a lot of this stuff. It was I guess in the first day, one of the things that the Orange Man is kind of promising is the idea that he's and they're kind of putting this, at least on the video I saw where he was talking about it, he's putting this in a very appealing way for people who'd be unfamiliar with what exactly he's saying. So he basically said, I'm going to encourage free speech online, and it's like, okay, cool. Like none of us really like the cancel culture-y stuff, and that kind of stuff. So it on its face, it kind of sounds like, okay, cool, pro free speech, great. And then he proceeds to say he's going to like basically penalize and prosecute any social media company that allows things to be called disinformation. Now that to me is pretty disturbing. And he talked about penalizing government agencies if they say something is disinformation. But the problem is, what if we're in like a scenario where, say, the executive power of the government is like overreaching and starting to spread propaganda, and news sites, like, and I'm talking like not just social media sites, but like news websites, um, journalists and stuff want to start calling it out because they're like, man, this guy's overreaching, and they're spreading a lot of propaganda that's not true, and they want to call that out and as misinformation, or call out a lie as a lie, basically. And what he's proposing is the idea of, pretty quickly into his term, and we'll see how that goes once he takes office. Basically penalizing anyone who'd say something is a lie. And that's just like, that is such a like weird dystopian thing. Like, I was thinking, like, how dangerous would that be if we were on the internet and you couldn't call somebody out for lying? Like, that to me is like, whew. Dylan said, you talking about Elon or Trump? And he said Trump. Got it. Yeah. So anyhow, like, I don't know. That was kind of concerning to me. There's a lot that's concerning to me, but that one was a big one. Where it's like, under the guise of free speech, they're gonna put these protections in, and it seems like the only thing, the only thing it's protecting is Trump's ability to lie and not get called out for it without getting prosecuted. Like, if you, I don't know. I mean, I'd look it up. Look up, Trump's statement on free speech and social media, and watch it in real context. Don't like let like any figureheads put in your head what they're saying, what he's saying. Just take him for what he's saying. Because in that video, he's like literally just saying that he's going to make it illegal for people to call a lie a lie. Like, you won't be able to call out a lie on social media. The companies won't be able to say, hey, this guy's spouting off on our platform, but by the way, it's kind of a lie. That's going to be illegal to do. If he gets his way, which is, wow, that's like, that's dystopian, man. Like, because if you think about it, like, what better way to kind of have full control over the government? He was also talking about full immunity for police officers. And here's the thing, I have, family members and stuff that were cops. I got nothing. I'm not like one of those weird left wing people who's like totally anti cop. I tend to think, I tend to think that like society without rules or order becomes like real dangerous real fast. Because people are lunatics, which I'm more and more convinced of because of the way that a majority of Americans voted recently. I'm starting to realize like people are really irrational, like beyond your comprehension irrational. And so if you take a bunch of irrational people and you don't police them, it's dangerous. But you need some kind of accountability, like, for false prosecutions or false arrests, or police if they're violating your constitutional rights. These are things that are like, ingrained in like most civilized democracies, is like some kind of way of holding, and it never works perfectly. And I'm not saying these are like perfect systems, but it's like there's usually a way that you're going to be able to get restitution of some kind, at least in theory, if you're mistreated by, the police, if they overstep their rights and impede on your rights illegally. But that's another thing that was in these videos that just came out, like, this last week, where it sounds like they're aiming for just like full immunity for police. So what happens when you have police who have full immunity? And it can be a crime to basically call something a lie, to call out a liar. And by the way, like, what a great system for somebody, who wants to use lies to propagate their delusional cult, forward even more. Dylan said, I feel like anti-chaos punks are kind of rare. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not, I'm not saying that I'm like a normal dude. I just like, I don't fit in a nice box very well when it comes to my politics. But I think coherently and rationally. That's the key thing. Is like I try to be rational and coherent. People don't have to agree with me, but hopefully they have some kind of basis in reality when I'm talking to them, and that's just like, yeah, it's a hard one to. Again, I'm wrapping my head around all of the implications of this last thing. Dylan said anti. Oh, he said he's the same way. Yeah, yeah. I don't like lawlessness. I don't like I don't like unfair laws. I don't like exploitation of like the justice system. I don't like laws that unevenly apply to the poor and don't apply to the wealthy as well. Um, I don't like executive branches being above the law. That's one thing. I'm not like a big fan of like kings. Um, who can kind of act above the rule they lay out, for the citizens. And like here I thought this was like a common thing. Like I thought most people I live near are like in the same boat there, where they don't want kings. They don't want like strong dictatorial leaders. They want some semblance of representative government that yeah, I don't even know what people want anymore. I'm like pretty blown away by it. So it's weird. It's kind of I will say, for people on my side of the political aisle right now, and I hope it's just hyperbole. That's what I've been hoping for. Well, the first term of the Orange Man, I was hoping it was just hyperbole, like he was just, oh, he's just talking, and it's not. All of these things are really concerning. Trying to make it illegal for a publisher to not be able to have the freedom of press to be able to call out a lie is that's a problem. That's a big old problem. Yeah, there's a lot of them, a lot of things that like on their face kind of sound reasonable, but then when you think it through, it's like, wait a minute, that's not reasonable at all. That's some crazy business. Dylan said, I love that pink too. Thanks. I am trying to I usually put magenta in place until I can do all the colors. Philip said, I can't comment or I'll start screaming. You have no idea how this is going to affect us here in Canada. I think that Philip, it's going to be a tough. We're going into some weird times, man. And again, I hope I just, like I was hoping, before this election, which I had a rough idea would turn out the way it did. I'm kind of hoping that it's not the case. And I guess it's kind of like if you're a relative of somebody who falls into like a weird death cult where, they might have a college degree or something like that, but somehow they got sucked into this like strange death cult where they just don't believe truth anymore. Like they don't even assess truth and can't even really find a basis in like some kind of fundamental idea or agreement of what truth is, because they think, I don't know, like souls are thrown into volcanoes or some like weird idea that they just got through this like cult thing. And it's a weird thing to like try to be in the space of like how you navigate that. And like, and again, the whole time I'm just kind of hoping, like in this scenario, let's keep that analogy of the relative and the cult. It's like the whole time you're going to be thinking, well, I love this relative. Like they're not, there's a chance they're going to come back. Maybe I'm just being overly concerned. Maybe this is just like a normal thing that they have gotten sucked into, and they'll kind of come out of it. And then you just start realizing not only are they not coming out of it, but you look around you and everyone you know is starting to join this like weird death cult. That's kind of how it feels. It's very strange. But it's also one of those things of like, what can I do? There's not much we can do in times like this except try to keep our integrity and honesty and fight it as best we can, and then just take things day by day and hope a lot that things do not degrade to the level I'm concerned that they will. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there was talk of them defunding the Department of Education, of getting rid of clean drinking water because of like wacky conspiracy theories. These are all things they're like openly saying they want to do kind of on day one. Yeah, I'll just put it this way. I'm kind of glad I'm in California because I think we'll be the last to get hit. I'm in a somewhat red district of California, but I think we'll be the last to get hit with all of these changes if they go as bad as I'm concerned they're going to. But I do feel bad for our allies, and like Philip was saying, like you have no idea how this is going to affect us up here in Canada. Oh yeah, it's going to affect all of us, man. And the scary thing is, it's like we're it's something to be proud of if you're on the right side of history, is that we're the most powerful country in the world, like easily. But when the most powerful country in the world could potentially become a corrupt dictatorship, what's that gonna look like? Yeah, and then the thing that I'm really saddened by is that I think there's a lot of people that are kind of cheering it on in this in this country. Like, I think there's a lot of people who are kind of wanting to see the downfall of the great democratic experiment, and that's concerning. Dylan said the witch community has been gathering their supplies to curse Trump. Well, I wouldn't say that around Trump because there might be trials pretty soon. I don't know. Last time I was kind of lost for words, but I think for anybody who's read up on it, and isn't blinded by some like weird cognitive bias where the man is you can't blame him for anything. It's for people who aren't sucked in the cult and have looked into it, it's like there's a lot of things. The electoral plot's the biggest one, and the ability to condone or excuse violence in defense of your retaining power was an interesting, scary one. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But I still have a comic I have to make, so forget all that. You know what I'm saying? How are you guys doing? Get me out of this conundrum of confusion being here after the aftermath of the aftermath of the election, which I think to me the result wasn't really shocking because I figured he'd win the electoral college, but the fact that it's most Americans is a little scary. Okay, guys, let's see here. He said, part of me wants to partake in the cursing, but part of me wants to see what happens, plus hundreds, if not thousands, cursing him and his people. Well, I don't particularly think witchcraft is a good thing. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it works. But you got to realize I'm like one of the few remaining people who I actually believe in biblical truth, but I also think it's cool for women to have rights, and I don't think people should be enforcing their religion on other people or in schools or anything like that. I think people should be free to live how they want to live, as long as it's not impacting their neighbor. I'm an old school liberal like that. Um, but for me, it's just actually it's more the skeptic in me that's like, yeah, I don't know, like with that kind of thing. I'm not like an '80s Republican about it, where I'm like, oh my gosh, it's horrible. It's just I just don't think it's effective. If it were, I might be like, go for it. Okay. What do we got? Um, Let me deselect this. So yeah, I don't know. It's been interesting because like yesterday was really fun. I took Ben to Universal Studios with my wife and sister in law and my mom. Like we all went to Universal Studios and hung out, and Ben got to go on rides and do like Mario World, which is why we got passes in the first place, was for his birthday. Because he's really into Super Mario, and it's a park that he'd enjoy. So we went there for his birthday, and then we just paid the extra, whatever amount for passes, because it wasn't that much of a difference. So anyway, we go there, we have fun. It's a pretty awesome experience. The park, in my opinion, isn't like, it doesn't hold a candle to a theme park that's like like Disney or something like that. Like Disneyland's a pretty amazing experience. This isn't quite that, but it's still a pretty good theme park, and the Harry Potter stuff is really cool. It was just a really fun day, and then today, like, I have the hangover from the park, not a literal hangover, but just you know how it feels when you get back from a theme park. You've been walking around all day, and for me also, I get slight anxiety around crowds, so like being packed in giant crowds of people at a theme park, it takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot out of me. So anyhow, today I'm kind of recovering from that, which, by the way, I'm not complaining. It's cool that we got to go. That was fun, and my kid had fun. That's the key. My kid had fun. Um, but and we did some of the classics, like the studio tour, which you kind of have to do. Like when I was really little and I went to Universal, because we hadn't been in years, going on the studio tour is like a staple of like cheesy, Hollywood touristy stuff that you have to do at least once. And so that was fun. But then like I get back, and I finally like get the Steam to work and stuff. And I made the mistake of looking at the news for like 2 seconds. And I had just noticed all these 2-minute clips of Trump just talking to the camera, saying, on day one, this is what we're going to do. On day one, this is also what we're going to do. And it's like watching, it's like watching a dictator saying like, okay, this is how we're going to start eroding everything that's great about, this system of government. And then, day two, this is how we're going to erode everything that's great about the system of government. And it's like listening to that, but with like hedged terms, where it's like all said in ways to make it sound prettier than what's actually being claimed will be done. And then there's ones where they don't even bother trying to make it sound prettier. So anyhow, so it's a weird thing because I'm at a loss for, like, I guess that before I worked today, I sat down and I was ready to rock and work on this stuff, and then it took me a minute to like get into it. Now because it's just like, whew, that's just a lot of heavy stuff. A lot of heavy stuff. I wonder if I should keep this kind of yellowy floor on this. A yellowish floor. Now I'm kind of curious. No, I had some references too, so let's look at the references. Are these yellowish? Okay, so it was kind of okay. We'll make this happen, guys. So I don't think that was actually too bad. All right, there's a couple things I want to do here. I'm gonna anyhow, so my brain is like trying to my brain has been trying to comprehend all of this stuff, and also just kind of get in a space of like, well, we can only do what we can do. So there's not much use in doing much more than doing the best you can with what you got. So, but it is a strange feeling. Like, again, it's equivalent to if a friend you liked really got sucked into some crazy, I don't know, like flat earthism or something, and you're like, I don't know if that's like and like not to the point where it's like a harmless thing. It's like to the point where they're like, and that's why we should abolish all, satellites, because they're actually not in space, because they're not orbiting the Earth, because the Earth isn't round. Like saying stuff like that where you'd be like, oh my gosh, like I've lost a friend. I kind of feel that way. Because I like, well, there have been times where I've really liked our country, and so in a weird way, it feels like I'm losing a friend, which is our country, to some kind of dark, different thing that's not going to be the system that was designed in the Constitution, kind of thing. So let's see here. Okay, here we go. But I don't want to ramble about it. I want to work on comics, not think about it, and just kind of get the work done that I can while I've got time to do it. Crimson said, "What's up, everyone? How's it going? How's it going, Ronnie?" Ronnie's in Crimson Owl Comics. He's a very talented artist and cartoonist. And I just noticed I said artist like artist. It's just a weird... He's an artist, okay? Okay, I'll be right back. Oh, you said hanging in there, buddy. Nice. There's a couple. Dylan, you can look up one of the things that'll lead to it is just look up Trump view of like plan for education, and that there he'll explain pretty much like defunding the arts, crushing unions, and closing the federal board of education. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There's a whole bunch. You just kind of need to look up the issue and then his name, and you'll see the videos. Okay, I'm going to take a break for 2 seconds, and then we will continue working on comics. Be right back.
Well, thank you, Colleen. I hope your daughter Kelly does well at North Carolina State this year. Well, we got another caller on the line. Elizabeth from Phoenix, Arizona. Elizabeth, what can we do for you? Are you ready to do some shopping, girl?
Oh, yes, Terry. I am ready to do some shopping today. I'm interested in that 2-book set you have. 2 Stories and Jacob's Apartment.
Oh, well, that's a great choice.
In fact, I bought these books before. I gave a set to my grandson, Hunter. These books are amazing.
Well, they sure are, and if you buy both of them, you really get the whole feel of the whole Joshua Kemble universe. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do, Terry. These books are remarkable because, for one, you can take them anywhere. You can put them in your car, and you can go to the park or the river. We've gone to the river. My husband Taylor and I, we just love it. And I murdered my husband at the river. Yeah, I did. But these still are amazing books.
All right, so I'm back. So some interesting stuff that I was thinking about the other day in regards to this problem is like, again, maybe you guys have ideas, but like, what do you do in scenarios where you like literally can't have an agreed basis of truth, and it gets to that, like, it's funny because it's like philosophy, I think, is like, it's something more people should think about because it has like heavy implications. It's like, do you believe in a baseline existence of truth or do you not? And if the baseline erodes, like, how do you even have dialogue? A good example of that is like, if let's see. And by the way, this is me just meandering while I'm working. So like, I will talk about whatever you guys want to discuss, but right now this is what's on my mind. So if like, let's say I'm having a conversation with a person about my house, right? And the whole time we're talking, they're hearing the word house and they're thinking that a house is a castle. Like they think what you would envision as a castle is a house. So the whole time you're talking about a house, they're thinking it's a literal castle. Like it has a moat and a drawbridge and all of this stuff. And you're talking for a few minutes with this person, and then it dawns on you like, oh, you're thinking of a different kind of thing. There's some similarities there, but we're not meaning the same thing with our words, right? Like clearly we have different definitions of what is true here about the word house, right? And okay, so another example of this that's like snarky and smarmy sounding, but it's not like that snarky and smarmy the more you look into it, is the classic, the chair. There's an old art history thing where, and now I'm still kind of a little sleepy from yesterday's trip, so bear with me. My brain is a little slow today. But yeah, so there's an artist, and they basically made a piece that you have to study, like when you work on your MFA or whatever, and take a bunch of art history classes, where it's a picture of a chair, and then it's the word chair, and then it's the word chair with something that's not a chair that says chair. And the question when you're looking at it is, which one is the chair? Is it the word chair? Is that true? Because when you put the word chair next to like a lamp, if the word chair is true, then does that mean the photograph of a lamp is a chair? Like, what defines a chair, right? As corny as this is like, early philosophy kind of stuff. The whole point of this is, that, and this is an old problem that goes back to like, early thinkers, laying out systems of rationality and early philosophy too, where it's like the Descartes thing. Rene Descartes like dealt with this, where the I think therefore I am thing. It's like you can't have a conversation with. Basically, the gist of it was kind of blowing out nihilism as a philosophy, because you can't. If nihilism is true, then there's no point in rational discourse. Like you've basically lost the baby with the bathwater, right? If we can't even trust reason, then how can we even justify having a reasonable discussion, right? Like debate, logic, all these things are based on the idea that, hey, there's something true out there. There's some kind of truth. And if we, discuss it, or we study it, or like the scientific methods based on this too, where it's like, hey, if we observe things in a rational universe, they're going to follow certain laws, right? Like certain, scientific laws. And by observing, we can find a semblance of like what is true, and then from there we can like actually start working on like solutions or things that like cures for diseases, that kind of stuff. But there's one assumption you always have to start out with if you're going to get into philosophy in any sort of meaningful way, where you aren't just questioning everything out of existence. This is, I know that I may not even be putting this in the most beautiful way. Oh, interesting. Crimson said, I'm going to send you a friend request through Facebook. I don't know what happened, and they never told me, and it was against community guidelines. Meta deleted my Instagram. Wow. And his Facebook got suspended. Oh, my goodness. That's bizarre, Ronnie. I'm sorry to hear that, man. Wow. Were you posting naughty pictures? That might have been part of it. I know sometimes with art, they can get kind of wild with that's the funny thing. Most free speech absolutists and stuff are very like free speech absolute until it comes to art, and then when it's art, like a lot of them are usually the first in line to like ban graphic novels and shun paintings. And that's been around since the even in France back in the day. I'm trying to remember. I think it was Claude Monet who got banned for painting nudes. And at the time, everybody was painting nudes, but his nudes got banned because they were looking at you. And that was just, you can't do that. Oh my goodness. They're looking at you. That is beyond the pale. We need to ban it. Sorry, that was a side diversion. So my point is, the thing that's concerning to me is like it basically, to have discussion or to live in a rational society, you have to have some kind of agreement on like some fundamental truths, like water is wet. That like just basic early logic things, that events that happened. But we're in this new world of where, and what's interesting is this like lack of absolute truth thing used to be very specific to left thinkers at the time. And that was a common criticism I heard growing up, of the left from the right, where they'd be like, well, if they erode truth, then what's true? And if we don't have truth, then we don't have a basis for society. And then it's whoever's truth is whoever feels like their thing is more truth, and then it's based on feelings, and feelings are dangerous because they're not fact. And it's like these were all points that I would hear from the right growing up, and now I'm seeing that complete erosion of truth just be embraced by the right wing, and that's really weird. I mean, I didn't. Yeah, that's like I've had my criticisms of the right wing, and I've always felt like there were some major issues and stuff, but it's one of those bizarre moments where it's like now anytime I talk to someone who's a supporter of this guy, like he can do no wrong. Like he can do no wrong. And things that he did that were wrong, well, he said that. He didn't mean it when he said it. There's just like endless equivocation to kind of justify some pretty horrific things, and it's interesting to try to kind of parse that out. And I guess it's not even interesting. It's like it's exhausting trying to parse that out. Because you'll kind of have a discussion. You'll be like, "Hey, this thing happened. They said this. They didn't say that." And then you show them, no. Here's a clip of them actually saying this thing, and they're like, "Oh, that was taken out of context." And then you show the whole context, and it's like, no, they're saying exactly what I'm saying. They're saying, and then they'll be like, "Well, it was just hyperbole." Like they tend to talk like that. And it's like, okay, well, okay. But then like they did this action that is horrific. And it's like, well, that's just fake news. And then you're like, well, no, it happened. And then they're like, well, when they did that action, see, it was okay in this circumstance because of this. And it's like, what I'm starting to understand is there's this divide where, where I feel like there's just a good chunk of people in my country who have like total cognitive dissonance to where there's just nothing like what is wrong isn't wrong. There's always exceptions. There's never like history didn't happen. And if it did, it doesn't matter because, these excuses, like, it's just very strange. It like gets very convoluted and weird, and you end up in this conversation where half the time we're not even agreeing on the same realities, and that becomes like really weird and hard to navigate because now we're not even working with the same definitions. And the problem, this is the thing I've been struggling with, and I think for some people it's really clearly an intentional like erosion of truth. Like it's an intentional act of trying to erode truth. And then I think for a lot of people it's like they aren't even aware that they're getting to the point where they're starting to think that a chair is a lamppost, just because there's a word chair next to it and some some weird pundit who's making tons of money and possibly getting paid off by, nefarious actors, like, is telling them that this chair is a lamppost. So like, what do you do in a world where a chair is a lamppost? How do you have a discussion about chairs? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I don't know. It's just a hard one to it's hard to verbalize because it's such a dire threat to like everything that's great about civilization. It's like you kind of need you kind of need to be able to agree on some fundamental things. If you're not even in agreement about like, for instance, if they're working with their own set of facts on like how the the Electoral College works, right? That's a good example. Like that, a lot of these people don't even understand the Electoral College. And so, and then if you try to explain to them, they're like, no, that's not how it works. And it's like, no, it is. It's like, I don't know, like other than trying to get them to read or look into these things, I don't know how you even parse that discussion. It's a weird one. Jake said, I hate comic booking. Comics sounds better. I agree with you. Comics is a lot of fun. Although, honestly, comic booking is fun to say because it's just incorrect. Yeah, I think working on comics can be a lot of fun. I'm having fun working on comics. I'm still kind of, again, like, if you're just tuning into, we did a long theme park trip with my kid yesterday. So we're kind of all in like theme park hangover mode, which I think only, this is like a very first world problem kind of thing, right? Oh, woe is me. We had to go to a theme park. But I will tell you, it's exhausting, man. So anyhow, yeah. Dylan said, I found a guy on Instagram a few days ago, and he was refining what gay is and calling people who don't agree transphobic. I'm sorry, but gay is not inclusive. Huh. I think it's pretty inclusive. But I'd have to know what you mean because I think it's a very inclusive group, but it's a very specific definition. But I think we end up in this scenario where we're arguing definitions of like some core things that aren't even like wedge issues. I can understand like people being confused about that sort of issue because a lot of people are ignorant to it, right? But what I don't expect people to do is like disagree on the plain meaning of a text, or like or like I guess in America, like one of the problems is a lot of people. I feel like something that kind of bonded us when I was younger was like no matter how far people would disagree, no matter how much they'd have like wedge issues and be kind of horrible humans, they'd at least agree on like the idea of like the principle of what our country was founded on, like meaning most people I knew, like left or right, were very much about the Constitution, and then the disagreements would kind of get into the weeds. But then most people I knew, except like maybe some wackos, would agree that it's probably good that we don't have the plague in our country. It's good that we have some like hygienic things. It's good that our water is clean, because for years like dysentery and like all sorts of unclean drinking water kind of diseases ravaged human beings. There's things that like that to me. Oh yeah. Dylan was just saying he just meant that as like a man being attracted to a man. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's pretty clear definition there. He said people need to learn that being too liberal is a thing. I agree. I think being too liberal can be a problem, but I don't want to use the term liberal because I feel like the word liberal has been hijacked. I think people need to go back to liberalism. personally, because I think that yeah, like I was saying, like there's some norms that are really important to agree on, like having a clean drinking supply, like not drinking toxic waste is something I would hope most of us would be in agreement on. Or like I guess a good example is like, man, like hopefully we can all agree that drinking cyanide is bad. Like cyanide will kill you. Um, can we agree on that? Can we agree that like bullets, if fired at people, tend to hurt them? Like just basic logical things. Um, like that's what I'm starting to get disturbed about. Is it's no longer things that are nuanced or things that are hard issues or even social differences, like the typical kind of stuff where I tend to lean very, very left. I don't think, like I grew up at a time where, I had to defend friends of mine who were gay, like in school, and I like the progress we've made in that area where people can openly like who they like and live their lives, that's something I was kind of expecting to be a typical left versus right kind of argument that's always going to happen. What I wasn't expecting was for the complete erosion of truth, like to the point of what was it? Someone had told me recently that they were under the impression that if the U.S. hadn't been involved in World War II, everything would have worked out hunky dory. Like the Axis would not have succeeded, even if the U.S. hadn't been involved. And I'm like, I don't understand how anyone, no matter what your viewpoint is, let's say you're like even a wacko who's like pro access powers, which would be nuts. But I don't think anyone in my lifetime has ever thought that the U.S. didn't play a key role in kind of ending that war for good or bad. Like the point being, like that was a truth that I think most people could agree with, and now that's eroded. It's really strange. And again, there are things very similar to the cyanide example I was giving, where it's like there's literally people who are like, "Yep, poison's good," and you're like, "Is it?" Like, and they're like, "Yeah, it's really good to let's all poison ourselves," and it's like, or let's go back to like the time before smallpox was eradicated by vaccines. Like, let's go back. It's like watching a bus just kind of drive into a landfill, or like an empty pit, and you're like, "Don't drive into the pit," and they're like, "There is no pit, ha ha ha!" And you're watching the bus like fall into it, and you're like, "Okay." But the problem is, I'm on the bus, and it's being driven by lunatics, and they are insisting there is no pit, and they're just driving us straight into the abyss. Yeah. Gary said, Dylan, Ronnie, nice. And then Dylan was pointing out that, yes, you have to be careful with love who you love. Yes, well, I mean, within reason, right? I think the catch of old school liberalism was generally the idea, as long as somebody's not being harmed by it. As long as you're not harming another person, who cares? That's the era of liberalism that I subscribe to, where it's like, hey, if it's not harming another human, cool. Let people do what they do. Yeah, so I don't know. It's an interesting thing, because I guess what I've been trying to think about, is just how do you even breach or start the conversation. Like, I guess a good example is something that exists, like how do you talk about space travel with a flat earther. like can you have someone who believes in the flat earth like working at NASA designing spacecraft? Does that work? Can we live in a world like that? Because that's what I'm trying to figure out, because that's kind of where we're heading. It's like, can we have somebody who only believes in Eastern medicine running the health department? You know, or trying to cure cancer? Can we have like astrologers, like, you know, start doing our weather reports? I don't know. I don't know what the world looks like in a little bit, is all my point. Yeah, Dylan, I'm glad that got shut down, because that's awful. But yeah, so I don't know. I just don't know where we're heading. Let's put it this way. I'm trying to think of a good way to make this analogy, because the truth thing I'm talking about more concerns just fundamental realities we used to all agree on, or at least most sane people would agree on. Here's one. Just again, trying to think of an analogy to kind of clarify it. So, if like more than half the country thought that being cold was good for you, and therefore, when people, you know, are going out in the rain, they should drench themselves in water first, because that will be better for their health. And then they should go out in the cold, in the rain, and that's going to be good for them. That won't compromise or trouble their immune system at all. I'm talking about things like that, where it's like a truth that people have known since the beginning of time. Like that, yeah, it's good to like bundle up if you're going out in the cold, because you can die from that. That's really bad to expose your immune system to like extreme temperatures of cold, you know, without a jacket, unless you're like really prepared for it, or you've conditioned your body to deal with that. Generally, your immune system is going to get weakened in a scenario like that. So I think that's the scary part. Is I think we're kind of in a country right now where there's some wild beliefs out there. Yeah, Dylan was saying, if you don't cover up in the rain, then your mom will yell at you. Yeah, that's how it used to be. But I feel like we're heading into a territory where very basic logical things are being set into question. And that's kind of a wild one. Okay, guys. I've been rambling. We're at the hour mark. I'm going to play another trailer. We'll come back and we'll finish this the coloring here. Hopefully the camera's not bothering you guys. I'm sorry that the other one worked. Dylan said you're invulnerable if you grew up with the Flintstones immune gummies tablets. Yeah, but that's the problem. A lot of people don't even think that vitamins are good. I mean, I'm more than half the country, I think, thinks that that vaccines are bad for human beings, and that's very ahistorical and weird. So, because again, it's just kind of denying the truth of reality. Like like what got rid of, some of the biggest threats to mankind, and just kind of ignoring hundreds of years of that history in favor of, but I have a feeling, Okay, here we go. I'm going to put on a trailer. And it's going to be Frank's Adventures at the Library. I'll be right back, and we're going to finish this and hopefully change topics. So here is Frank's Adventures at the Library. If you guys have anything you wanted to talk about, let me know in the chats. Here it is.
Our heroic adventurers fought orcs, monsters, sorcerers, necromancers. Now they find themselves in front of a mystical library. What shall they find? It's all in the roll of the dice. We've come this far. There's great power behind this door. I can feel it. We just have to get past it. This door is no match for my axe. I shall chop it down. You always want to use brute strength. Why don't you try knocking? We'll try it your way. You may enter. The library is open to all those who seek knowledge. Feel free to look through our tomes. Maybe you'll find the answers you seek. I sense great power here, and it's behind those shelves. Indeed, there are powerful items hidden behind these shelves, but you can only get there through the enchanted words. Do you have those words? I believe I do.
Tremble before the Cremble.
There is great power. Look at that glove. Must be so powerful. That is not where I sense this power. I must get closer. I found them. I found the sacred manuscripts written by Joshua Kemble. Behold, I now possess 2 stories and Jacob's apartment. Please tell us more about 2 stories and Jacob's apartment, and who is Joshua Kemble? Xeric Award-winning cartoonist Joshua Kemble is a freelance artist, graphic designer, and author. 2 Stories is a confessional graphic memoir that grapples with questions of faith, mental illness, depravity, and ultimately redemption in a fallen world. Jacob's Apartment is a coming-of-age graphic novel in the vein of Ghost Road and Fun Home. It weaves together the threads of spiritual faith, identity, purpose, love, and loss to create an engrossing world in which waking and sleeping dreams collide. You have made your choice. The passage is now closed. Wait, can I get that glove? No. Oh. All right, let's go.
Okay, so real quick, and then we'll get off this topic and get into something a little more interesting. By the way, we're making pretty good progress coloring this Not Death But Love, the Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning book that I'm doing for Turner Publishing. Okay, quick question for chat, if you guys are there. If you're a reporter and you're tasked with basically like reporting what is true, and let's say you are trying to find out the weather in your city, and you interview one person and they say it is raining outside right now, and you know that person lives, like maybe a block away from you. And then you interview another person who lives about a block away from you, and they say it's not raining, it's sunny, and they live about a block away from you. Do you then report that, let's say you're writing an article, do you then write an article saying that, both sides are saying differing claims on the weather. One is saying that it's raining. One is saying that it's sunny. We have no way to tell. We have no way to tell what is true. There's different opinions. So therefore, it is both raining and sunny. There's just an old, adage with this, which is, I think people have forgotten the ability to like, have you ever thought to like look outside your window and see which person is telling the truth and which person is not? Does that make sense? Like, that's the part that's disturbing me, is there's a lot of people just like play pretending what is true, and that's leading to some really dangerous stuff, yeah. So okay, so other than that being a primary thing on my mind, you know what I mean? Because it's like it's just not like I understand there are some areas where it truth does get slippery, and truth is a hard thing to defend. It always has been logically, right? But without the belief in it, and the belief that there is true, and in order for there to be something true, there has to be something false, right? Without that, you literally have just negated the ability to even have a conversation, because there's no point. Like, if it's just all up to whoever, and that's a real problem when it comes to things like public health, where it's like not an area that's, yeah, maybe there's some things that are being researched, but in general, there's some pretty solid science behind some things, and there's really shaky, weird conspiracy theories behind the other. And I guess my point is, like, I guess if I got diagnosed with a terminal illness or something tomorrow, I'd rather listen to somebody who studied terminal illness and solutions to that than like some, person, on a blog talking about some weird theory about it that maybe could have merit, but they've never run clinical trials. They have no idea what they're talking about. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyhow, scary world we're heading into potentially, but who knows? Okay. We have to finish this page. How are you guys doing? How are your projects coming along? I gotta say, I've been facing a lot of just dragging resistance today, where I did not want to get to this page. But I am slowly starting to be in the zone and get this going, thanks to you guys showing up and hanging out. So I appreciate that. It's going to help me rock this page like it's never been rocked before. Okay. Okay, so what else? It is interesting, though, when you start, it's a worthwhile exercise. Sometimes it can get kind of boring and kind of typical, like philosophy 101, but it is an interesting exercise to start asking yourself, how do you define what's true, right? What are your parameters for like a plausible claim? What do you think is good evidence for truth? Like, these are good things to kind of think about. And do you apply those things? Like, if you have answers to that, do you apply those things to things in your life? Like, do you, approach things skeptically, not like a ridiculous skeptic where you're just, well, I don't even know if what people tell me about legs is true, so I'm not going to walk anywhere because who knows what's true about how legs work. It's like, no, I mean, there are some times where you can just kind of trust what you've been told, but it's an interesting thing to kind of say, how do you decide how do you decide basically what is true? I don't know. Dylan said red light therapy has gained in popularity, and one of the content creators I've talked to a handful of times recently got one. There's research proving it has any health benefits. Yeah, there was a whole therapy before that was blue light. Like there's a whole thing, it like swept the internet for a long time, like where content creators would like sell these like glasses that were just basically like um they were just basically like fake glasses with like plastic frames, and they would say it like protects your eyes from blue light. And so people were basically just buying like fake glasses like, and going, well, it protects them from blue light. And it's like, I remember when that was going around, I was like, initially, this is usually how I approach a thing like that, where I'll be like, is that true? You know what I mean? Like, that's the skeptic in me. It's not saying skepticism isn't always just going, well, that's wrong. It's like, that's a bold claim. You know, like, is there such a thing called blue light that's like so destructive to you, and it happens from staring at a screen? Because I do know there is science to like staring at a screen for too long being bad for your eyes, and basically like, you know, conditioning your minds to kind of deal with like basically like a like a gambling device for like hours, you know, where you're just seeing bells and whistles and getting constant like Pavlovian rewards for things can be really addictive. So it's like, I know that like those two things are really bad because you know, and there's science behind that where it's like our brains are not wired to get rewards in the way that we do digitally, you know, or for constant entertainment. And so that can have some like psychological effects. So anyhow, but the blue light thing, I was like, maybe that's it sounds like it could be probable. But I didn't end it there. And I think a lot of people just end there and go, well, that sounds probable, so it must be true. And it's like, no, no, don't do that. Don't do the brain killer stuff. The brain killer stuff is just so bad. It's so destructive. You know? Like a brain killer thing is like, well, that seems like common sense. Okay, no, don't stop there. That's a good place to start. But like, if you stop there, you know, you basically end up buying plastic glasses that you think are somehow protecting your eyes, and don't even look into the swaths of experts, the wild amount of research that's been done into this claim about blue light, and realize it's just complete junk science. It's just a bunch of people wanted to think that wearing these cool glasses was going to help them. I don't know. So like, to me, that's problematic too, where, you know, just because something sounds probable, like that should be your, I don't know. If something sounds plausible or probable, that does not itself make the thing true. It's like, that's the gut response that your rational mind is saying, maybe there's something to this. I should look into it. It's not, I should look into it hoping that it's true. I shouldn't Google something saying blue light is a problem, because that'll lead me to every single, you know, weird conspiracy site that goes into like how blue light is destroying our eyes. And you know what I mean? No. Like, look for like credible sources backing the thing and see if there's any legitimacy to it before you like start going, oh, well, I want to think that. Paul said, I think some people want a conclusion to things that are not conclusive that makes them susceptible to untruths. Exactly. That's the other thing. Like, here's the thing we do know, at least about blue light, is so far the science is no. there's not such a thing called blue light that's like having this terrible effect on people. Yes, staring at screens for long periods of time is really bad for your eyesight and for your mind, right? We know both those things like as true. Now, does that mean that the blue light thing is complete nonsense? No, maybe it is true. Maybe in 10 years, they look it up and they go, you know what? These weird plastic glasses that actually have nothing special about the lenses are somehow blocking blue light and helping people. And in that case, you go, okay, cool, you know? Or if it somehow has a response like a, oh, now I'm blanking out on what it's called, where you get like a pill that's what is the term for that? Like the sugar pill? I can't remember it. You guys might remember, but it's basically like, you know, where you're taking medicine, right? And then you actually aren't taking a medicine, but you just psychologically feel better. And so it's like there's a word for it, but I'm just blanking out on it. But that, you know, that's a thing, right? Like, let's say maybe making those glasses somehow psychologically makes you feel better. And that's fine, then wear the glasses, but don't go around making the claim that they are helping if it's like there's absolutely nothing, there's nothing to back it. You know, at least be honest and go, I feel like they're helping, you know? That's the part that just, I don't understand how that went out the window. Dylan said, since I'm becoming older, though, I'm looking for eco-friendly, natural, sustainable skincare items for now, and I'll probably start in like 3 years. Or Placebo, thank you. You hit, and that's a great band too. I don't know if you remember Placebo. They were a really good band. I haven't listened to them in years, though. Now I'm wondering, were they a good band? I feel like they were a really good band. It's been a while since I've listened to them. But anyhow, placebo, yeah, the placebo effect, right, is very powerful. And that's scientifically backed, like the effects of a placebo. The human mind is very powerful in recovery. So, like, you know, if someone feels, I mean, this is why, like, when somebody's going through, you know, cancer treatments and stuff, they talk about it like a battle and try to keep the person really optimistic, because there is something weird that happens when people give up. They get sicker faster, you know, and it's like keeping that mindset does have like a very considerably positive effect on people. So if something works as a placebo, great. Just don't go around saying the sugar pill isn't a placebo. Like, you don't know. You don't know. And that's a thing that just tacking onto what Paul was saying. It's like sometimes it's okay to just say, I really don't know, you know? But I do think it's dangerous if you start running the world based on just like intuition and feeling. It's a real scary place to be. You know, because like every once in a while I'll have a weird feeling that is not correct. And it's like, if I based my whole life on just like a weird feeling, you know, how many people who gamble addictively, like people who have gambling problems, get a feeling that they're going to win. They feel it in their gut. You know, it's like it. Now, don't get me wrong. Maybe there are some people who got a feeling and then they do win. Cool. But it's so bad to attribute the feeling. It's so hard to explain, but it's just like, I don't know. I don't think what I'm saying is all that wild. I don't think it's like all that crazy. I think it's kind of been the basis of rational thinking for years, you know? Whereas like in order to really make a claim and stake it out, you need to have some basis. You need to have some legs to your argument, you know? Yeah. Dylan was saying something about witches believing magic is placebo. That's the thing. I'm too I'm too skeptical to believe in witches. I think it's silly. I know that's weird. I'm not criticizing anybody else who maybe believes that, but like, that's a bold claim. You know? It's a bold claim. I've never seen a point in history where they were able to validly point out that these people existed and that there's really these magical powers. It's just never happened. And then I feel like if I look into societies, you know, in the past, who made more mistakes? Societies who believed, like where the majority of people really believed in the existence of witches, versus a society that accepted that like there's not really a lot of valid proof for that. And like I see one society where they literally started drowning people and killing neighbors and stuff because they were like led by an irrational belief in witches. And then I see another where it's like, you know, people could even do like Ouija boards and do whatever because who cares? It's superstition. Does that make sense? It's not like a it's rationality is really a big deal. And I think people need to remember that. Like it's not bad to use your mind and be a skeptic. And by a skeptic, I don't mean naysay everything, right? That's not proper skepticism. Skepticism isn't just like you know, the guy who's just undermining anything anyone says, you know, that's just being a jerk. But it's like, you know, just having a modicum of like, even if I think that, even if it seems probable and believable, I should at least admit that it's a feeling, not a, you know, a hard proven fact, you know? Now, let me give you an example of what I'm saying too, where it's like, if oh my goodness, I grew up with a lot of this stuff too. Like I remember, you know, when I was younger, you know, because even though I'm a believer and stuff, and I'll admit, you know, my beliefs are going to always sound kind of ridiculous to someone. But when I was younger, I used to have to go to like these weird evangelical things. And I will definitely say I'm not part of that system that I grew up in at all. But anyhow, so you would go to like these big mega church services when I was a kid, and people would be really rational and skeptical occasionally, but then someone would come to church and be like, I was in a car accident and an angel appeared before me and they lifted the person in the car across from me and they placed that person on the sidewalk safely and I was saved by an angel. And everyone at this church would just be like, amen. And I'd be like, what? Wait, that's a wild claim. And you just got in a car accident. So like, were you seeing things because you got in a car accident? Like, again, I can't, you know, another rule of logic is you can't be somebody else's experience, right? That's part of why, like in a rational discussion, you're not supposed to rely on just anecdotes, right? Because you can't argue an anecdote. Like if, a good example of this, if you're in a debate with somebody and they say, you know, people in general don't glow, magenta, bright magenta glowing like a neon light at night. People just don't tend to do, like human beings, we aren't kind of like animals like that live in the deep of the ocean that suddenly have phosphorescence, right? Generally, human beings aren't phosphorescent. If you made a claim like that and then somebody says, hey, how dare you, sir? My family is phosphorescent. They all glow bright magenta every day when I go home. And how dare you say that's not true? Are you saying I'm a liar? And it's like, how are you going to debate with that? Because, dude, I've never seen this dude's family. For all I know, maybe they do glow phosphorescent. That's why you can't you can't base rational conclusions just off of anecdotes, right? You need some facts. You need some reliable observers. You know what I mean? Because anecdotes are dangerous. Anecdotes are dangerous, you know? It's just a bizarre thing that I think is Dylan was saying people finding it wonderful how a Bible survives a fire when somebody died in that fire, but the Bible's cover is usually fire resistant, and I think it's also the paper and it's thin. Yeah, or it's like like another annoying kind of conspiracy theory thing is like I remember a lot of kind of strange folks on the religious spectrum when 9/11 happened. A lot of people posted a picture of some of the giant metal bars of the building had like somehow posed as a cross amidst the rubble, and they were like, look, it was a miracle, the cross was there. And it's like, no, a bunch of rebar from a giant building crashed down and happened to make a cross. Like, which one is more likely, you know? And I guess that's what I'm getting at is like, I feel like we're in a world where everyone is, is like having that first thought of like, well, that's probable or that's interesting and I'd like to believe it. And then they're just making the jump or just looking for confirmation. Like they're like, I want to believe that. So now I'm going to look up excuses to believe that. And that to me, that's a, again, I know I'm probably a hypocrite on this, but it's just, Paul was saying, didn't somebody see Jesus in their burnt toast? Yeah. And then they actually found out that the person making that claim was actually a huckster who had made a toaster that had an imprint of Jesus on it. And they literally just toasted an imprint on there and then called the news and were like, oh my goodness, Jesus appeared in my toast. And the problem is that huckster got away with it because people are vulnerable and they heard the story and they were like, I want to believe in a world where Jesus appears on toast. It's like, that's the problem is like, just because you want to believe it doesn't make it true. And I do feel like we're in a scenario where, like a lot of people just really want to believe, in this orange guy being like this great guy who's just going to do great things and just ignore everything that guy says, that guy does, everything that people who've worked with that guy have said about that guy. Like, it's like if everyone who could know is saying this is a bad thing, but you want to believe it's a good thing, it's just like, maybe, just hypothetically, maybe it's a bad thing. I don't know. But again, that's the kind of logic you'd apply at like a job interview, right? It's like if I call somebody's previous employers and let's say they've worked 8 different places and 8 out of 8 say this person was awful, do not hire them. I think most employers, like if you're hiring somebody, like most people would be like, yeah, that might be a good sign. That might actually be pretty rational to kind of make the assumption, an informed assumption that maybe this is bad. But anyhow, whatever. Paul said, I've had experiences that I believe are 100% supernatural. I don't find the need to share them because they are unbelievable. It isn't productive. I too have had very personal experiences, that I think were supernatural. I, sincerely to this day believe that, I had the Holy Spirit visit me, as corny as that is. Do I make that claim expecting you to believe it. Like, you know, I hope you would believe my own experience of it, but I would hope that if anyone hears that as a good, healthy skeptic, they would be like, yeah, but is that true? Was he maybe like in a wishful thinking scenario? Like, there's all sorts of rational red flags that should go off with anyone, including me, making a claim if you hear them. That's just a wild claim, you know? It's just I don't understand how people you know, and I'm not trying to like criticize other people. I guess I'm getting at it's strange that I feel like we've moved to a society where people don't have that natural red flag go up and go, huh, even if it's something they want to believe, where they're like, that's something I want to believe, but you know, like, what does it look to be? Like, if I explore this further, what's it gonna turn up? Like, you know, if I look into skeptics, I mean, it's part of why, even though I'm a believer in, you know, Christ and the Bible and all that stuff, it's like, I still to this day watch like a million debates. I subscribe to a bunch of atheists, and I'm really interested in hearing philosophy and the philosophy of all of this stuff, because I don't want to ever be a person who shuts my brain off just to like believe in some sort of fiction. I think that's really dangerous. It's dangerous to do. I don't think I believe in fiction. I'm very convinced. You know, and that's a weird like supernatural thing too, but I do not expect I don't expect somebody to take my word for it. You know what I mean? I think that's dangerous if I was expecting people to take my word for it. That's where you end up in weird cults, right? Where it's like, trust me, I don't lie. It's like, no, that's the first guy you got to look out for, is the guy's like, you got to trust me, I don't lie at all. You know, like, if you go to a used car dealership and they're like, this car's the best, everyone who knows me knows I tell the truth, I'd never lie about this car, I've never lied in my life, I've never told one lie in my entire life. Now, you tell me, like, you know, would you feel comfortable buying a car from somebody who says that? Since I was a little kid, I've been told I'm Honest Joe. Honest Joe never tells lies. It's like, if you hear anybody talking like that, your red flag should be just like going off like sirens. Paul said, right, I want people to be skeptical. It makes the world a better place. It does. And by skeptical, I don't mean cynical. You know, that's the thing. Like, I think sometimes people think that means cynical. No, I just mean like a good example. Like, there's some weird, stupid, crazy conspiracy theory about fluoride in water. And we're going to have a guy who's the head of the health administration like potentially getting fluoride out of water. And I'm just kind of curious if the people who like heard this thing, they're like, fluoride, that's bad. That's what I get at the dentist. That's really dangerous to have in water. It kind of tastes gross. I don't know, man. They put fluoride in, you know, to rinse out my teeth. That doesn't sound good. And they go with that feeling and just go fluoride bad, water good, fluoride in water bad, rather than thinking for a second and going, why is there fluoride in the water? Why would that be? Like, how much is really in there? Is this true? How is water treated? How come I don't have all my friends dying of dysentery like they used to when they used to drink from shared water sources? What is happening there? What happens with the water, you know, from the pond to my sink? Like, how does that work? And like, maybe I should start thinking about that. And then maybe, weirdly enough, maybe there might be a good reason there's fluoride in the water. Maybe it's good that there is a small bit of fluoride in the water. Maybe that's preventing a lot of diseases from spreading all over the world. Yeah, like maybe, just hypothetically, I could look at other countries that don't have proper water treatment facilities that just use very natural sources of water. And I could see what the leading causes of death in those countries are. And it tends to be like really weird water related things. How strange. It's just, anyhow. It's maddening. And the part that's maddening about it is I don't know how you'd begin a discussion with someone who's absolutely convinced of something they have no idea about. like absolutely convinced that Donald Trump didn't do anything wrong with the Electoral College scheme. And then you ask them about the Electoral College and you realize this person has no understanding of civics. They don't even know what the Electoral College is. They haven't even looked into what the scheme was or what the claims were or the wild amount of testimony that was backing those claims. They don't look into the fact that like the very vice president that was supposed to be hinging on this whole thing, like openly multiple times to this day still says the dude asked me to overturn the election results. Like he said it. And it's like, where are the people just using their brain and going, is there like a chance there's all this testimony, right? There's all these people who used to work with the guy, including General Mathis, who thinks that he's a psychopath and thinks he's the most dangerous man that he's ever worked with. Maybe, just hypothetically, maybe these guys who worked with the guy understand the guy a little more than like, t-shirt wearing fanboys in the South. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. Well, I mean, they're buying the shirt of the guy. They're a fan of him. They're not necessarily like working with the guy and having direct experience with the guy where they could speak on it. It's just, Paul said dysentery spelling. I don't know. You'd have to pull up Oregon Trail to get the proper. Oh, it's Tary or Tery? I think it's Tary. I'm going to trust my wife. Oh, it is Te. Okay, I shouldn't have trusted my wife. I should have gone with my gut, my intuition on that. Okay, I'll be right back, guys. I'm rambling. I'm a little, worked up. Tis the time of the season to be a tiny bit worked up about this type of stuff. But it's just really hard as somebody who likes thinking. I'm not going to profess to be like an intelligent person. Like I'm probably not. I'm probably a moron, right? I'm educated, but I'm educated in specific areas, right? Like I would say I'm pretty well informed on how to do awesome art. That's kind of the thing I'd say I'm pretty educated on is like making art. And even in that, I'm kind of an idiot. But I feel like if I'm that dumb, how am I able to comprehend the most obvious thing in the world, which is like, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. That evidence includes personal testimony. And if you've got 40 out of 44 cabinet members of a person saying, hey, this person's a pseudo-fascist, they're not saying Nazi, just fascist, and has nationalistic, creepy aims and wants to overthrow the Constitution, maybe believe them, right? Over who's not saying that out of the 4 cabinet members. What's more likely? I don't know. Yeah, Paul said the National Association of Dysentery endorsed Chump. I love that. Well, I think they're big fans of RFK. That's what I'm guessing, because he's going to be heading the health department pretty soon. But according to that video, like where Trump was saying this, like it's soon going to be illegal to say that that's misinformation. So you can't, like, if they go, we're taking fluoride out of the water, and you have people literally just starting to get sick, you can't report on it saying, hey, all these people believed this mistruth about taking fluoride out of the water, so we stopped treating the water, and then it caused all these diseases to hit an area. So maybe that bad information was bad. Now, like, pretty soon we aren't even going to be able to say that, because you can't say that it's misinformation or that it was a lie, because that's somehow about free speech. I don't know. Okay, I'll be right back, guys. I'm going to put on a trailer. We're going to finish panel 3. Let me know the most, you know what, I'll try to think about this too. What's the most gullible you've been in your life? Like, what is a thing that you've believed just on like gut feeling and then found out sorely later you were wrong? I'd love to hear it. I'll try to think of something. I know there's been quite a few things. But anyhow, so let's see. Let's put on Kids Say Kemble.
We know the Georgia kids say the craziest thing.
So, little Susie, do you have any brothers or sisters? I understand you're in 3rd grade. How do you like that? Do you like your teacher? You like to do a lot of fun things at school? You got any hobbies, Susie? Any things you like to do when you're not in school? I hear you like to read.
Well, right now I'm reading 2 stories written and illustrated by Joshua Kemble. It grapples with faith and mental illness. It's ultimately a story about redemption. It's a savage piece of writing. Also, I just finished up Jacob's Apartment, another one by Kemble. Jacob's Apartment weaves together elements of spiritualism and relationship dynamics, as well as atheism, and all the while it deals with abandonment and loyalty. It's a fierce read.
Do you like ponies?
Oh, nice. Dylan was saying he was going to vote for RFK, and then was saying, I'm subbed to the Pac-Man show here on YouTube, and he uploaded a video on something RFK said. I'm going to watch it. The Pac-Man show is great. David Pac-Man is, I think, one of the good ones. as a like, again, you know, an idiot doing art over here. You know, he seems actually fair and balanced. Does that make sense? It's like there's a lot of these claims of the example I was using of the reporter who's like got 2 neighbors, and one is saying it's raining and one is saying it's sunny outside, and they just report, well, who can decide what it is? We'll just have to leave that up to you. There's 2 different opinions and both are valid. It's like, he doesn't do that. He'll, you know, the thing I like about him is he'll look outside and go, oh, it's raining. Okay, the guy who said it was sunny is lying. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, which is what a reporter's job is, you know, to like actually not just say, some people are saying that there's, you know, zombies invading the peninsula, and some people are saying that zombies are fictional. Well, we'll never know. It's like, no, that's not a real thing. It's like, it's kind of up to the reporter to look into, wait, is first off, is it even plausible what both claims are there, right? From what we know in the world, are there zombies? Like, you know, fictional zombies, are these things real? Okay, if that doesn't comport with the reality that you're aware of, then maybe we should look into that and then see which is a more probable claim, right? Anyhow, David Pac-Man's great. Paul said Pac-Man is quality, a great debater too. Yeah. Dylan said zombie ants. Okay, you've got me there. You do have me there. I have heard of zombie ants. Although, from what I understand, aren't zombie ants just like ants that are being moved by like the impulses? Like, does that make sense? It's kind of like a person, you know, after they die, they still have like movements. Man, this stream is dark. We got to talk about happier topics, guys. Talking about zombie ants, crazy conspiracy theorists. I just miss when conspiracy theorists were fun. That's what I miss, you know? I miss when it was a lot of fun, harmless fun. Who was getting harmed back in the day when people thought Sasquatch was roaming around? You know, like, did that ever lead to like horrible legislation that like harmed people? did the belief in Sasquatch hurt anyone? Maybe it did, and I'm just like, maybe I'm just finally getting to the age. Maybe like Nessie and the whole Nessie myth was like really damaging to people, you know? I don't know. Maybe it caused like a bunch of really good, maybe there's like a bunch of stuff for like the Loch Ness that was needed, and then people were like, well, I mean, that would be ecologically sound, but we have to be really cognizant of Nessie, okay, guys? I don't think that ever happened, though. I think they were kind of harmless and kind of fun. But man, do the times change, you know? Dylan said, I believe Bigfoot exists. Here's the thing. I don't mind you believing that because that's not going to hurt me if you believe it. You know what I mean? It's not going to cause the destruction of the system that I like, you know? Anyhow. So we have dinner arriving, but I need to finish this. I have to finish this, guys. I have to finish this page. I have no options other than to finish this page. Here's the thing to kind of take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, though. Again, I'm a cartoonist, and I made the rational decision to take on a 250 or 230 page graphic novel. So clearly, I'm not the most rational player in the world. You know what I mean? Like, there's a good chance that maybe I'm just a lunatic and all of this stuff makes perfect sense, and we're going to have a beautiful, the most beautiful, the biggest, most beautiful country in the world, you know? I mean, I decided to major in art, okay? Okay. I decided to get into education before somebody was going to fire the Board of Education. You know what I mean? I don't make the best decisions. So keep that in mind when you hear what I'm saying. Paul was saying, right, a good conspiracy should be harmless. Yeah, like I remember a long time ago, even people who believed in like like a bunch of fun stuff, like the Skull and Bones and like all of that stuff. A lot of these people weren't like letting it affect their vote, you know. You'd have the kind of lunatic out in the wilderness who was like doomsday prepping, and maybe they were kind of freaking out their neighbors a little bit. But in general, you know, I feel like they were much less harmful, you know. Whereas now it's like, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if in a year people are like, you know what's funny? This actually reminds me of a book by Anthony Burgess called The Wanting Seed. And I read this a long time ago, so I can't fully remember everything about it. But I do remember, you know, the movie Soylent Green was kind of based loosely, like they kind of ripped off The Wanting Seed. Or it was A Wanting Seed. But I think one of the premises in that, or maybe this is from Good Omens. This might be from Good Omens, like a Terry Pratchett thing. But all I remember is there's a story where, like, basically in the doomsday, the apocalypse, what causes famine is that people actually start convincing themselves that starving to death is the best diet plan. And so people just start intentionally, like, dying. Like, they opt to just not eat and just stop eating altogether. And it's like, and it becomes this like worldwide global thing. I could totally see this happening in my lifetime, where I could see people, just starting to believe, you know what? Actually, it's not about the right foods. The problem is food itself. That's the problem. It's not about eating the most nutritious food or a debate about that. It's literally about food in general. We've been fooled by big food to think that human beings need to eat food at all. You know what I mean? That's the thing. That'll be the next one, and then you're going to have like these death cults that are like, fighting their will to eat. They're like, I keep getting the urges, man. I keep getting the urges to eat some food. And it's like, you haven't eaten in 48 hours. Yeah, I know. I almost beat it. I almost beat the desire, like this is what, I don't know. This is where I think we're going at some point. Or people who literally think you don't need water. Like, our bodies are like 90%. I can't remember the percentage of water that's in our bodies, but it's a lot. I think it's close to like 80 or 90% of the human body is water. And they're going to go, you know what? That's the problem. That is the problem. There's just too much water in your system. So you just need to purge yourself of water, all water in general. Paul said, have you tried the starvation diet yet? It works. Don't knock it till you try it. Paul said, the problem now is the kooks all gather online and gather momentum. Well, and I think it's fun. I know it's weird, but this is the thing I've realized. It's like, and I hate using Matrix analogies, because like the right has just so badly brutalized that movie, to where like the red pill is like some kind of misogynistic weird thing, and all of the analogies to Matrix are overdone. But the character in the Matrix who's like stoked because he just chooses to eat the steak and be ignorant, I think that's where it is. It's like, it's probably pretty fun to be supporting someone who is like, in your mind, just perfect. Like, I can't imagine how comforting that would be. I'm too much of a skeptic. Like, I actually was pretty happy with a lot of the things Biden did in office, but do I think Biden's perfect? Heck no. Do I have criticisms with, his administration? Do I have would I have even voted for him? Like it's if I had a choice, like if there was a better alternative, but it must be comforting to live in a world where like your guy is Superman. It's like you have a demigod that is just above reproach. And anyone who has anything critical to say about that person, it's like they're insulting your religious figure. You're like, no, you don't understand. Trump walked this earth and was free of sin and was just, setting the example that we all need to live after. And you're like, well, I mean, kind of seems like, well, sometimes he says mean things. It's like, I don't know. It seems like I do envy it a little bit. It seems like a very cozy, comfortable reality. I can't believe it, but it does seem like what an interestingly comforting reality where you have all the answers, and everything wrong with the world comes down to like big something, It's big tech, it's big pharma, it's big government, it's big, and has nothing to do with your guy who's been a part of a lot of those big systems since, the 80s, but he's the different one, It's gotta be comfortable. Dylan said, have you guys seen Inside Job? It's a canceled Netflix animated series where most conspiracy theories are true. It's hilarious. I will have to see that. That does sound fun. Let's see. Okay, we're getting here. These are weird Victorian dresses, so they have some interesting coloring. But yeah, so I envy it sometimes. There's actually a Bible verse about that where they say with much wisdom is much vexation. And and again, for the idiot that I am, the more I acquire wisdom about things, like the more, like for instance, if I hear something that I want to think and I just click off and don't look into it, if I had the ability to do that, that must be pretty fun. Where it's like, oh, well, I just heard this thing I want to think, so I'm good. That's what I want to think. I'll just subscribe to that and just listen to that nonstop, and then my life is good. If I were that kind of personality, I could imagine that being really fun. Whereas my problem is, the skeptic in me just eats away at that kind of thing. Like I've just never been comfortable with like buying a lie, even if it's a really nice lie, but I wonder what it's like. There are times where I wonder, here's a question, what was it? Jonestown, where they all drank punch, like the Colts drank punch to like all off themselves. Like, here's a question. Do you think those people were happier? Maybe they were happier. Maybe that felt really cool. It's like, dude, I am saving the universe right now, drinking this poison punch. Am I okay with that? No, I think it's horrendous, but I'm just saying there is a hypothetical world where you could say, the lunatics in the asylum might be happier than your average Joe, and I definitely think the people who are on that bandwagon, are on this march to Takat said there is more to life than being happy. I agree with you. But what do I know? I'm again, I'm the guy who, like, I decided to major in art. I believe in beauty. I believe in the value of thinking and rationality and all these things. And these beliefs often lead me to not be happy. Like the belief in beauty makes me more outraged by people not caring about art, or people canceling art, or people liking stupid art. Like it gets me more passionate about that kind of thing because I actually care. I remember when I was in grad school, I had to take all these art theory classes, and I remember at the time, keep in mind I've changed my mind since then, but at the time I hated art theory so much. And I remember at the end of the semester, my teacher took me aside and said, hey, I think that you are going to do really well with theory because you get pissed about it. And they were like, the fact that you get pissed about it means you believe in theory. Like, because you wouldn't get angry unless you thought there was right theory and wrong theory, right? And if you think there's right and wrong theory, or bad theory and good theory, then you believe in theory. And that really changed my outlook on it, because I did realize from that class, like, I took away a lot of things that ended up informing my art in either reaction or response or support of, right? So yes, I'd like to think that I think that that's the better path, is the examined life. But there are times, man, where I'll look at the delusion of of the majority at this point, and go, man, maybe that's a better, maybe they have more fun, would I want to be on that side? No. I will take the side of truth any day. any day. I'll go truth over good feels 9 times out of 10. Let's say 10 times out of 10. Talkit said there is a wider canvas of experience out there, man. Yeah, I agree with you. Dylan said, I heard that it wasn't even Kool-Aid. It was a knockoff brand. It was. It wasn't Kool-Aid. Had it been Kool-Aid, my dude, they would have all been saved by the Kool-Aid man kicking down a wall and being like, what are you doing, dudes? I think that's what would have happened. Talkit said, what are you doing on this piece? Right now, what I'm working on is a graphic novel called Not Death But Love, The Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. We're working on page 122, and it's a scene where Elizabeth Barrett Browning is talking to a character, Sophie. And yeah, it's just my 122nd page that I have to color before I move on to making the next page. So that's what we're working on. Usually on this channel, I'll work on art and comics and just kind of talk about whatever's on my mind. Because I'm in the US and there was a recent election, obviously that's a bit on my mind. And yeah, we just kind of hang out, sometimes goof around and all sorts of stuff on this channel. Talkit said, did you do the lines also? Yeah, I draw it and illustrate it and, you know, do the shading and all of that. But right now I'm doing the kind of more boring side of it, which is flat coloring. But yeah, it's a book for Turner Publishing, and it'll be hopefully, in theory, be done by May. That's my goal. So it's a rooftop conversation, but it's fun because it's a historical fiction book. So it's like this this scene, like this is an actual location in Rome, and this is, you know, the actual place they stayed, and trying to be as accurate to that as possible, which has been a challenge and pretty fun and exhausting, and I think worthwhile, because I think art and beauty and truth are worth something. Paul said, how cynical do you have to be to not even spend big when you drink the Kool-Aid? That's a good point. That's actually a really good point, Paul. If they're going to do it, like if this is going to be your last Kool-Aid on Earth, why didn't they get like the good stuff? Why not even like hypothetically not even do the like fruit punch mix? Maybe actually make some like legit, you know, authentic lemonade or actual punch that you made yourself, right? Because it's the last punch you're going to have. But I guess in a lot of their minds, you know, they were on to a greater world. So I don't know. Oh, Paul said, I don't see TAC. It's messages. Where are they at? They're TAC or Talkot is on Twitch. And that is why we're having a difference there. Dylan was saying cheapskates. Yeah, so we're all hanging on YouTube, but you know, that's where most of my subscriber base and stuff is. But I still stream to Twitch because, you know, if anybody finds me on Twitch, that's always fun. And by the way, if you are watching this on Twitch, definitely give a subscribe, you know. Yeah. Or a follow, I guess. I'm less familiar with Twitch as well. Talkit was saying, I'm the only one on Twitch, so I get special treatment. That's right. You are now the king of Twitch of the Kremlin. Okay, so we're coloring this page. I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to be able to finish this without doing a dinner break. Right now, I'm kind of doing the engine that could thing of I think I can, so we'll see. Dylan said, "Do you stream on Twitch?" He said, "I've been following your stuff for like 10 months, and I swear I've never heard you mention Twitch before." Yeah, I always do both. I'll do a dual stream on Twitch and YouTube. And then Dylan was explaining to Paul what Twitch is. Twitch is like mostly a gaming platform. There's some art streamers and stuff on there. But I don't really follow Twitch, so like for me when I'm focusing, if I'm ever focusing on like building, I build on YouTube because I prefer YouTube. I just like as a user, I like YouTube more. So that's why I kind of focus my efforts more on YouTube because, yeah. Let's see here. Also, I've just had more traction on YouTube, but probably because I've been on YouTube longer. So there's that as well. All right. So what do we got here? Gonna color this this luggage. So yeah, I don't know. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out, and if you guys have like a magical answer to this, let me know. But the thing that keeps getting this stuck in my head about all this stuff I was talking about is if you had the Jonestown example is really good actually. Let's say one of your friends was in Jonestown, or whatever, like they were part of the Jonestown cult. Like at what point, like what can you do? Like other than present information, what can you do to get through to someone who's that deep in, or do you just kind of stand by and hope that they see sense at some point? It's a hard one to know. And like, I guess if it's a friend or a singular person, I think that might be an easier answer than if it's the entire, it's a good chunk of the country you live in. Paul said, my favorite movie line is Jay from Jay and Silent Bob says, "Internet? What the heck is internet?" I love that. Dylan said it's a streaming platform. I just wanted to highlight that he said platform. That's right. That's right, Dylan. It's a form for plates. Boom. What else? Paul said, "I have the magic. Hit me." That's amazing. Talk it said, "Dinner break for me. Peace out." All right, Talk it. Thank you for hanging out and tuning in. That was fun. Paul said, "You have to be there for them when they're ready to face the truth. You have to love and compassion for them." That's kind of how I view it. It's like I'm just trying to be. This is my survival method for the next 4 years, assuming that we're in that part of the Avengers where Doctor Strange is like moving forward in time to find all the alternate realities. So if I'm like looking at all the possible realities we might be entering into, there's a lot of ones where me being kind and loving to my neighbor and trying to be the best person I can and hope that, in 4 years we can kind of change this mess. There's a lot of realities where that may not even be that just may not even be a thing in 4 years, But I will say right now, that's kind of all I can hold on to, is like trying to be caring and think about other people. And again, like if I have friends who got sucked into that cult, like if they get out of it, I'll be there for them. And just hope that it doesn't spread further and try to provide good information for as long as we ourselves have access to decent information, you know? Dylan said, even though I want to call you an idiot or a moron, I will not, because you're going through something major. Nice. Oh, man. Ooh, I got to stretch. Okay. So we just finished a panel. Let's do another little commercial break. And Paul said, my problem is online I'm an argument jackwagon, so people don't get the love and compassion vibe from me. Well, Paul, you're a chill person though. Like, and I know you have a variety of friends from all kinds of walks of life, you know? Okay. So here we go. We're going to have, a trailer, and this trailer shall be the original trailer for Jacob's Apartment, which you guys should consider picking up if you haven't. And while this trailer is playing, hit that like button, hit that bell so you get notifications when we're about to go live. Hit subscribe, and I will be right back. And again, sorry, the second camera that usually shows my drawing and stuff is dead, so I will try to get on top of that and replace it so we have a 2 stream. Let me know in the comments or the chats what you think of the 1 camera thing. Does it work okay? Do I even need to get another camera? Or you prefer the 2 camera setup where you like see the hand working on the Wacom? All right, guys, I'll be right back, and let's play the original trailer to Jacob's Apartment.
Clearly it seems that only in dreams can we be these things we've seen and walk around breathing I don't know the part to play in this heart of mine. There's dissonant things, they split at the seams.
All right. Paul said, Paige is looking stellar as always. The hand camera is not required. And then he said, I've kind of wondered about that previously. And then we have a split in opinion here where we have Dylan saying, it is weird not having the second camera. Okay, cool. I'll look into replacing that or figuring it out if I can. Again, today it just kind of started acting up like right before going live. And I went through about 5 troubleshooting things, and none of them worked. What I will probably do is I might take advantage of knowing Corey Kerr, who's like a tech wizard, and ask him if he might have any ideas of why it isn't registering. It might just be that the camera is dead, but who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of web cameras. You know what I mean? Okay, so Dylan said, I'm just familiar with the hand camera, but like Paul said, it's not required. Yeah, but I feel like it adds something to it, like I want you guys to be slightly entertained while we're doing this, so I think it does reinforce, that we're working on art live. So that's always a good thing. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to select this. Dylan said AI Corey took over your camera. That's a possibility. AI Corey is a beast. I haven't seen him since Halloween, but that is interesting. I'm trying to think, have I live streamed since Halloween? Maybe it was AI Corey. All right. So, I think that this is going to be a good weekend, though. I'm pretty excited about it. I told you guys before that I've gotten this last baseball season. I actually started watching sports, which is nuts. Like I've been in. It's hard to kind of contextualize this. I think for modern or more modern generations, maybe this divide still exists, but I don't see it as bad as it was when I was a kid. When I was younger and you went to school, if you were like one of the music guys, like playing in rock bands and stuff, and I don't know if this is just this specific time that I was going to school or something like that. It was like nerds or geeks versus jocks. Like that was just the rule of the road. And then every once in a while you'd have that like strange person who kind of floated between, but in general it was like there was like a very big divide socially when I was a teenager, and honestly there was kind of like a hatred between the jocks and like the kind of more academic kids, and I played into that big time when I was younger. So I found Paul was saying, do you think AI Corey is more likable than real Corey? I honestly, at this point, Paul, I can't tell which one's AI Corey and which one's the real Corey. I can't tell. They're both so convincing. And what's funny is they both really hate AI. It's really strange that AI Corey also really is not a fan of AI. Anyway, so there used to be this like hardcore divide between, what we'd call as jocks and, basically the jocks and the geeks. Like, and I was definitely more on the geek side of things. So in my mind, when I was younger, and I am not justifying this because I think I was wrong, but I used to look at people who were athletic with disdain. I would, look at sports with disdain. I thought that it was the weaker thing to kind of be into, and it was kind of like a mind killer. That's how I used to view it when I was really young. Okay, keep in mind I'm an old man now. Okay, so this is a long time ago. I've gotten over that quite a bit. I like in my life I've met plenty of people who are very athletic and very intelligent and very well read and just great people, and they happen to be into sports, I've also found out that like a lot of the cartoonists I love and like people I admire were really into sports. It's like I don't think that's the dividing factor that I used to when I was younger. But even with that, for the last 10 years where I wasn't convinced that people who like sports are dumb or anything like I don't think that anymore like I did when I was a kid. And keep in mind that wasn't when I was a kid always. It was when I was a teenager, because before that I actually kind of enjoyed watching and playing a lot of sports, Dylan was saying I went back to high school back in 2012 to 2016, and he doesn't remember cliques ever really being a thing. I will say, there's still cliques, in high schools, but I don't think that the sports divide is there anymore. In fact, I've noticed that a lot of the kids that play sports are like academically really high up there and like reading and like making art. And it's just kind of, I don't know. I've grown up is my point. But anyhow, even with that, like because of that, I think as a holdover, I just kind of avoided ever watching or getting into sports in until this last year where I actually, I took my kid to a baseball game and I remembered how fun it is to watch, a sport and one that I kind of like. And so I've like 180'd on it. Like I went full bore in and watched the whole season. It was really fun. It was fun to watch the Dodgers get win the World Series. So now I'm kind of like, now I've drank the punch when it comes to that kind of thing. Like I am on board with baseball. And not only that, like, when I was a kid, when I was really little, I did really like the Dodgers. I thought Oral Hershiser was the coolest person on the planet. That's showing you how old I am. But then I got older and then I got into like punk rock and music and stuff and was like, jocks are dumb. That's how I used to view it. But now I'm into baseball again. So, with that, I got myself a Dodgers hat a while ago. I love that Paul said, I used to like sports until the Cowboys lost really bad to the Eagles earlier today. Now I hate sports. I love it. Yeah, so anyhow, I have gotten really into it. And so I even started looking into a potential jersey. And I didn't realize that, dude, jerseys are expensive, man. Like, I guess, people who've been following sports or are familiar with this stuff would already know this. But I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm a fan of so many different things, and I like having t-shirts of things I'm a fan of, like band t-shirts. I'm wearing a Minor Threat shirt right now. If I like something, I like repping the thing I like. But I didn't realize how darned expensive it is to rep your sports team. Like dude, like those jerseys were like, okay. So yesterday we went to Universal Studios and there's like a Dodgers store that's like out there, but like by the entrance to Universal Studios, right at Universal City Walk, which is like this giant shopping area for anybody who's not familiar. It's like right outside of Universal Studios in Studio City. And they have like an MLB Dodgers. I can't remember what it's called, like the Dugout or something. I don't know if it's the Dugout, but it's like the Dodgers something. And it's an official like Dodgers store. So you can get like jerseys and things like that and hats and, banners and whatever, regalia you want. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get myself an Ohtani jersey because I really like Ohtani. I know that's weird. I know that's a hot take that, the person who right now, most people are very seriously considering whether they're the best baseball player who's ever lived. I know it's a hot take for me to say that I'm a fan. So anyhow, I was like, okay, I'm going to get one of these jerseys, just to wear maybe on like a game day or something, because I'm leaning into it. I'm enjoying change. I'm enjoying, this is a thing about me that I've always had where if I change my mind about something, I'm kind of okay with it. I'll lean into it. And I've been brought around. Dylan said, I really love the style of high school jersey jackets. Paul Pate said Oral Hershiser, the side armor, that's going way back. Yeah, that's back when I did watch sports as a kid, right? So anyhow, the point being, I go in, I'm like, I'm going to get this Ohtani jersey. I look at the Ohtani jersey. I find one I like. It's not quite the best jersey in the world, though, because I feel like, a real jersey has like stitching on it, stuff like that. This one's just screen printed, but it does have like the MLB patch on it and stuff. So I'm like, okay, this looks kind of passable. I look at the price tag. It's $200. And then I look at the price tag on the one that's like real authentic. It's got the stitching and stuff like that. Dude, $400. I'm like, I mean, I guess I'm like a nerd and I love guitars, and so in guitar language, that's not that pricey. But in clothes, like who pays $400 for a shirt? You know? Like that's just nuts. It's like, am I gonna wear this thing every day that I'm alive? Like that's a very to me. Maybe you're out there, maybe you're some rich kid who's like, $400, that's nothing, you know. But for me, that seemed pretty extreme. Okay, that seemed really extreme. That seemed like prohibitively expensive. So anyhow, I saw that. We went to Universal Studios. I used self-control and did not get said jersey. But then I was thinking about it and I was like, well, I'm a fan of, I think I'm a baseball fan now. I think I might actually be like on board. Like next season, I think I'm going to watch every Dodger game kind of thing. Like I think I'm bought in. And the thing I like about it as an artist is it's kind of fun because it's something you can have on in the background. Like you don't, like you can listen to it. You don't have to be like staring at it. So you can work on art while you listen to a game. So it's kind of fun. Yeah, Dylan was saying I'd rather buy a new artist tablet or new art materials with that money. Yeah, same here. It just seemed like that's great. Who spends $400 on any shirt? Like I love, I went to see Sunny Day Real Estate at their reunion show. And if I had gone to their merch table and their shirts were $400, I would have been like, well, I love Sunny Day Real Estate, but that is a cost, my dude. Unless it was like original art or like some kind of magic print or I don't know, but anyhow, point being, I get home, we have a great time. Ben has tons of fun at Universal. And then I have today where I'm hungover from the park, not literally hungover. But like, I explained this at the top. When you get back from the theme park, you just kind of feel that like drag of like, gosh, I just walked across like a theme park in the heat in crazy crowds for hours. And now I can retire from life for a day, that kind of feeling. But anyhow, so here's the thing that's funny. This morning, just out of curiosity, I looked on eBay and I found the same exact jersey. It's probably a knockoff made in China for $45. And I was like, okay, now I'm actually buying that. So I bought it because I was like, okay, 45 I can do. And it's stitched and stuff like that. So we'll see if it arrives, if I have to cancel the purchase because maybe it's like a scammer. But I can do 45. So I'll do $45. That seemed totally reasonable. So hopefully my Ohtani jersey shows up and doesn't look, maybe it has like misspellings and it says like the Dodgers, but it's like the Doggers. I don't know, I don't know if this thing will be any good, but man, I'm not going to do, yeah. As much as I'm very moved by baseball and have been enjoying it, I am not like $400 in enjoying it. Unless again, if that were a live game, maybe that would be a little more reasonable, even though that's still pretty expensive, but still. But I don't know who out there. I guess if that's your only thing, that kind of makes sense, right? I think for like I guess thinking about it, right? Let's say you're just a human who just goes to work and you come home and you watch sports and that's kind of your thing. Like you go to work, make money, watch some sports, and call it. Like maybe in that case 400's okay, cuz it's like, well, it's like a special thing for your special hobby, But to me, it just seemed like extreme. But that's probably because, again, like I'm spending every waking minute of my life right now working on a 200-page graphic novel. So again, who's the wiser of these two? I don't know. I think it could be argued that I am completely insane for working on these things that I work on, but Paul said, I saw a kid wearing my school's varsity jacket a few years ago. We chatted about it and knew some of the same people. He was my daughter's age. Wow. Okay. I don't know if my school is the kind of high school I would want to rep. My high school was, if I have a lot of pride for my high school, I definitely feel a lot of pride for my alma mater, like my university, but, and I have quite a few CSULB things because I just love CSULB. I think it's a great school. I think it saved me a lot of money. There's great teachers there. It's a good art program. I'm very proud of Cal State Long Beach, and I love Long Beach. So yeah, I mean, there's that. But yeah, I don't think I'd rep anything from my high school. Like, no offense to my high school, it wasn't the best school. Thomas said, I know people who work the NASCAR race here in Vegas. He said, they told me you would not believe the amount of money people drop on merch. No, that's the thing. I realize, I think in sports, like, I think there is serious money. I mean, it makes sense, like, for instance, the guy I want to get the jersey of, Ohtani, I think he signed a $500 million contract, So, if you're in a area where people are getting paid $500 million to do their thing, they're probably making okay money, it's just shocking because it's like, man, I can't even imagine, I can imagine people in comics, like, I guess that actually comics contextualizes it, because have I bought original pages for, excessive amounts of money? Yeah, but I feel like at least then you're getting like an original piece of art. Like, I am totally rambling, guys, but thinking about it, let's say that like, that was actually a jersey, like worn in a game, then I could understand that kind of cost. I guess, but then again, like I don't bat an eye if somebody told me they bought, if somebody told me they spent a couple $1,000s on a guitar, I'd be like, yeah, that's a decent guitar probably, because guitars are like expensive things, but it's like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. So I guess I just didn't realize the fan merch prices. But it makes sense. It's a very very unique to America thing, the sports. Paul said his high school was recognized as the poorest high school in the state. Somehow it's a point of pride, though. Yeah, I mean, I think for me it wasn't the fact that my high school wasn't great. It's that, like, even the city my high school was in, I just, like, I don't have a lot of like town pride in. It's just not the best area in the world. And it's not that it's not a great neighborhood, but it's also just like, I'm not proud of that area. I'm proud of where I've come from there. Let's put it that way. Paul said, I tried the tried and true high school Coach 6 scandal. What's Coach 6? Oh, Coach Sex scandal. Dylan said, about a year or two after he graduated, his high school had a coach. Your high school had a Coach Sex scandal. Yeah, that's awful. I always feel like, yeah, that's what's funny. Well, not funny, but interesting on that topic. my old high school had a coach who had a cheating scandal. Like, they were basically like illegally doing something to the tapes for like review, and it was like some serious cheating infringement in like football. And so they got banned from teaching high school. Like, not just fired from our school, but like they couldn't teach high school. And they very promptly got hired by our local junior college. And then they did really well with the team. The team went really far. And then years later, they got in trouble at the college for the same thing. So I don't know. Dylan. Maybe it's the curse of the coaches. All right, let's see here. Paul said, well, it's a point of pride for me. I don't live there anymore, but I suppose there are differing opinions. Well, I think it just depends on the school too, you know? But I think if it's a point of pride, you should totally rock that business. Why not? Why not rock that business, you know? I think that's the official term for what that would be, is rocking that business. Well, here's the thing. I think I'm going to stream for about 15 more minutes and see how far I can go. But I might need to break for dinner because I'm a hungry hippo, okay? I'm a hungry hippo. But I'm going to, in the meantime, like finish. We will at least finish this panel, okay? I thought I'd get through the whole page, but I'm starting to feel that. And I think on another day, you know, let me make my excuses here. On another day, where I hadn't just gone to an amusement park and walked around the park, I would have the energy and focus to see it through. But I think on this day, it might make more sense to kind of finish this up. This panel in particular, and then we'll kind of move on to ending the stream, and then after that, I will come right back and we'll do a stream while I finish the last two panels after I consume some food. Paul said we came from humble beginnings. Nice. Yeah, I take pride in that. Like, one of my favorite things, this is just a little factoid. I have a buddy who's like absurdly wealthy, who went to the same school. Like, he's doing well for himself. And when I knew him, like, I've known him since we were 12 or 13. I think about 12. So, you know, like a little over 40 years or 30 years that I've known this guy. And when I first met him, you know, we were going to the same school, and he lived in a trailer park with, you know, 4 siblings and a single mom, you know, and it's like to see how far he's come, where he's like living in kind of like a mini mansion in Northern California and doing really well for himself. It never fails to make me feel really proud of him, because it's like, I know where he came from. I know what hardships he had to kind of overcome, you know, and he's in a field with a lot of people who didn't have anything like that, like who were born with kind of a silver spoon. And it always makes me really, really proud, you know, like, no, my buddy worked his way up from nothing, you know? Those are like the stories you want to hear, you know? That's, you know, I think some people want to hear. I think some people like the story of like, Daddy left me with lots of money. Oh, look what I did with it. Oh, I'm so good. Do you like, I don't know what that voice was, but I think it was working okay. I don't know what that was trying to mimic there. The, oh, hello there. I don't know. But I do know that I probably need to eat. Okay. All right. Let's do this. Okay. One last bit before we end the stream. I'll finish this panel. Go and eat some food. If you guys haven't yet, subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell so you get notifications when we're about to go live. And I will come back on here and we will work on these last two panels. But I am happy with the panels we've got so far. I appreciate you guys. Paul was saying, was it Mr. Burns from The Simpsons? Might have been. I don't know. I don't know what it was. I just like the idea of somebody like, Daddykins left me with so much money. I didn't know what to do with it. It was a hard childhood of spending wisely on investments that would further the family name. All right, guys. Dylan said bye. Eat well. See you soon. See you guys in a bit. I appreciate you guys. And I will see you on the next live stream where we will finish these last two panels in a little bit. So make sure you're subscribed. All right. See you. Bye.